What actor or actress stupidly left a movie franchise or TV series thinking they were too good for it, only to be never popular again? George Lazenby has to be the top answer. Dude with zero acting experience lands the role of James Bond after Sean Connery, and was offered a multi-film deal to be Bond for the foreseeable future. Then, his agent just totally misguides him, telling him both that it's the summer of love and nobody is going to keep wanting to see spy movies about killing people, but also that since he'd already appeared in a film, he could ask for whatever he wanted and they couldn't turn him down. They brought Connery back for a film instead and Lazenby's acting career basically ended on the spot. Yeah, but Lazenby also hated how much the studios tried to dictate his life during and outside shooting. He didn't embody the Bond visage in his day-to-day life. Not to mention Peter Hunt basically used and abused him during filming for the first one. Like straight up said we could kill him in a stunt and replace him tomorrow if needed. I like to think even if Lazenby would have continued, he would have left for the same reasons Connery left in the first place. Chuck Woolery left Wheel of Fortune only to see Pat Sajak host it for over 40 years. And Pat Sajak only worked, like 4 days every 2 months. What a dream job! According to Cosmo. Back in 2016, so 7 full years ago, Forbes reported that Pat was earning $15 million per season of Wheel of Fortune. This is obviously a lot of money, especially if you consider what this dude's work-life balance is like. As in, Celebrity Net Worth reports that he only works 4 days per month. I repeat, 4 days per month. That's 48 days per year, $312,500 per workday, and $52,083 per episode. And also, just keep in mind that, again, $15 million per year is what Pat was earning in 2016. It's more than likely that he makes far more now, especially since he and Vanna White reportedly signed fancy new contracts in late 2021 that take them through Wheel of Fortune's 2023 to 2024 season. And lastly, FYI, when Wheel of Fortune is in production, Pat and Vanna film 6 shows per day, and Celebrity Net Worth says the schedule is pretty normal. Like, they arrive at 8:30 a.m., reasonable, and shooting begins at noon, also reasonable. And his workday probably looks nothing like ours. Personal dressing room filled with his preferred food and drink, crew get him ready and cater to him, and then he goes out and puts on a smile and banters with people for a few hours, and gets driven home to a mansion to sit in his spa with a glass of wine. Alex Trebek wrote in his book that he filmed 5 episodes a day for 2 days a week. All he did was have production meetings in the morning, change suits, get his makeup up done between episodes, and rinse and repeat. It's why when he privately thought about leaving Jeopardy, he did some research by asking his friends in the acting industry what their schedules looked like. Most of them said they filmed for 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. Alex said that insight made him realize he made more money at Jeopardy and had more free time. Several of the actors of MASH left early to make it big, none of them really did. Radar left and did a lot of stage work. I assume he never really needed to work again after 8 years on MASH. The only person who really seemed to have a career after MASH was Hawkeye. David Ogden Stiers went on to do everything. Ada, y'all can stop telling me Stiers never left the show, I know that. I brought him up in response to the above poster's comment about Alan Alda. Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf. She was so certain she was done she had them kill off her character only for her career to flop outside of Teen Wolf, and 10 years later would come back and have them revive her character for the movie. Part of the reason she wanted to do other roles was because she wanted to play a more age-appropriate character. She admitted she felt weird playing a 16-year-old when she's nearing 30. You left Melrose Place to do a movie with Carrot Top? Chairman of the BORED. Rip Norm. If Carrot Top is in it, you know what a good name for it would be? Box Office Poison. My ex-girlfriend was on a soap, but as a regular extra. They were starting to give her speaking roles, got her SAG card, etc. Once she got her SAG, she demanded more speaking roles or she was leaving. She never got another role after that. Happened to a friend of mine 25 years ago in Los Angeles. She had a recurring role on a hit network sitcom, but it was a dumb show and she wanted to be taken seriously, so she quit just as she was getting noticed. Never got another good role, quit acting a few years later and moved to Las Vegas to run a Pilates studio. Brian Dunkelman was co-host of Season 1 of American Idol with Seacrest, and then quit. Over the years it has toggled back and forth between whether or not he would have been fired anyway, but in at least one interview he admitted to quitting and then almost becoming suicidal over it. I remember he went on Howard Stern right after he quit and Howard bluntly asked him what TF he was thinking and telling him he was an absolute idiot for leaving. Howard was right. Howard makes this point pretty frequently when people leave a good thing. Like his own career, he suggests milking it as long as possible. Marcus Chong was Tank in The Matrix. Main character in a huge franchise. He had all of these big ideas about how the movie should be done and how his character should progress. That's fine, but he wouldn't stop pushing them on the directors and producers. When it came time to make Matrix 2, he was not invited back. Dude could have literally just shut up, been cool and thankful, and made huge bank and a bigger career. I don't know if the following is true, but I seem to recall him asking for $1 million per film to return for the sequels because Tank was such an integral character, in Marcus' opinion. Then the studio said fuck that, hired Harold Perrineau, and killed Tank off via a couple lines of dialogue. Also, I don't think Tank was that integral. Neo, Morpheus, Trinity, Smith, everybody else is secondary cast. Not sure what made him think the movie couldn't be made without him. I felt that the real loss was the Oracle. I know the makers had no control over it, but the original actress was so charismatic, she gave the original warmth and heart that no other character could provide. The ending scene of the third movie could have really landed if it had been her. Absolutely brilliant performance. Thankfully, for the first video game, she was able to do all her scenes before she sadly passed. Really reminded me of my own grandma.